Pattern maker bits really are one of those technologies that they just seem to know more in the past than we do today. But do you know all the variables that are involved in a pattern maker bit? Today we'll discuss. Pattern maker bits are one of those technologies that people were using constantly 100 years ago, but nowadays people don't really refer to them too much. You know, auger style bits. Nowadays we're using Forstner bits or those little paddle wheel bits or spoonbill bits, and really these things leave such a better hole, a more consistent hole, a hole with cleaner walls that accepts glue better than anything we are using today. And the thought that went into them is just incredible. For example, the lead screws come in different thread counts. And what's cool about that one is you buy different styles for different types of wood. This one right here is what they call a fine thread count, and it's used mainly in hardwoods. And because it's finer threads, it actually pulls the bit through the wood at a slightly slower pace for hardwoods. Plus the fact the finer threads will grip hardwoods a little bit better. You can also get coarse thread kind, which are a lot coarser for softer woods. They'll bite a little bit more and they will come through the wood a lot quicker. Most all of these will have two blades which kind of work as ripping blades to get rid of the waste. But what makes them so cool and able to sharpen, make such smooth holes are these spurs. And the design of these are just so much better because they can get a lot steeper angle of the blade, so it will cut even easier and finer compared to something like a Forstner bit, which is at a 60-degree angle, which is, you know, a lot more of a rip and tearing cut. And you can resharpen these all day long. Just file the inside of them. You just want to make sure you never file them past this blade. That way it'll slice into the sides a lot more. That's another advantage I find of them. The scoring blade goes a lot deeper than stuff like Forstner bit. And you can resharpen these blades simply by filing back this edge right here to lower it. And as you can see, you can sharpen this thing quite a bit. It's got a lot of life in it. Now there are a lot of different styles of these kinds of bits, but you kind of classify them into two different categories. This is a Russell Jennings style where you can see each of these blades has a auger that goes all the way down. I'm not sure that's the right term, but each one has a separate auger, so you actually have two spirals going down. Then you have the Irwin style, and these were considered a lot quicker, so a lot more of construction people use them. If you notice, one of them goes all the way down. A second one terminates after a half rotation. That way, after it cuts those shavings, because this one's very coarse, it's going to be going into the wood a lot quicker. It wants to evacuate those shavings quicker. So having this cut off one tang right there, the shavings don't fill up as much. The downside, theoretically, and something that I find in real use, is because you have less contact points here, compared to one right here, this one seems to track better into woods the farther down you go. Now coming back to these threads, one of the things I like about them is if you are roughing out like a mortise and tenon joint, a really thick mortise and tenon joint, well, you know how we put little flags on the ends of our Forstner bit so that we can tell the depth, so whenever the flag knocks off the sawdust we know we've gone down? You don't have to do this on these. All you have to do is count the threads. So if it is a 8 thread count, well, you know 8 revolutions will go down 1 inch. If it's a 12 or 16 thread count, you can count your revolutions on your bit to determine the depth. Also notice another difference is the coarser the threads, generally the steeper the wings are going to be, and that again more with softwood. Steeper in comparison in where this one is versus the blade depth. Now, as you can tell, I don't really use Irwin styles very often. But if you're wanting to drill holes, I highly suggest you go onto eBay and find yourself a nice set. Because back in the day, every woodworker had something like this, You can find really nice collections where people will buy one or two and maybe not get into woodworking, so they set their tools aside. Sound familiar? It's kind of a modern day problem too. Well, they sold them in boxes, so you can get all the different sizes available in a nicely organized kit. So you can, this is a lifetime tool set. Yeah, finding these vintage styles in a complete kit will be kind of pricey, but once you got them, you got them. I do believe there are one or two companies out there are now making these styles, but from what everybody has told me, the vintage ones are the way to go. And I got these a long time ago, so I haven't had any reason to buy any of the new ones. So if you're someone that wants to get into chair making, or you're going to build a workbench and you need to drill a lot of holes in them, I will tell you, I burned up a corded drill drilling holes in all my workbenches, and got to the point where on the last 6 of the ones I did, I just used a bit and brace, and it worked out just fine. You're not going to develop a huge sweat. Just get a brace that has a big swing on them. I have 2. I have the standard one, and then I have one that's got a longer. And that amount of torque will allow you to go through it really, really quickly, and those lead threads just drive it down. If you want a smooth cut, just feel for the bottom, and whenever you feel that lead thread come through, back it back out, come up underneath, and those scores will really make a smooth entry and exit hole. And if you're ever doing Morrison tenon joinery, those lead threads, well, you can count the depth. Just go maybe 1/4 of an inch deeper than your mortise is going to be, so you can have a spot for glue to go through. There you go. Clean up the walls with a chisel and you've got a great mortise. So, if you're going to be doing a lot of woodworking, I highly suggest you looking into getting a nice pattern bit set. So for today's bonus, I want to talk to you about one of the most brutal styles of woodworking I've ever seen. But before we get there, if you've got anything out of this video, please consider liking, favoriting, subscribing, doing all those social medias. That kind of stuff really does help me out in both the YouTube rankings and allowing more people to find the channel. And if you've gotten something out of this video series or any of my longer form video series, please consider visiting wortheffort.com, where I do some blog posts. I write, you can see a lot of my other work out there, where I'm going, and I have a store where I sell not only my own woodworking, but a lot of swag that helps promote this channel, such as my t-shirts, hats, and I'm working on a new sticker series featuring some of this artwork that I do with charcoals. The Swedes, descendants of Vikings and all that kind of brutal axe work and butchery. I don't really know if that's all true, but that's kind of the impression I got. And I have a video for you today. It's back from the turn of the century. It's a silent video. It's called Swedish Woodworking, Traditional Swedish Woodworking, Clogs, Spoons, and Chairs. And it's one of those things like, well, a few weeks ago, or a few days ago, I shot y'all to a Japanese woodworker, and I was just awe-inspired by the intricacy of his woodworking, the elegantness, the smoothness, the skill involved that showed just minor movements, and he was producing some of the greatest joinery I've seen in a long time. On the flip side, you had these Swedes from the turn of the century that are taking monster-sized axe swings. They are using a 2-man hand plane in this video. But what's cool about it is, you know, I was watching this one spoon carver. He starts out with a log. He roughs out a blank faster than anybody I've ever seen do it in the modern era. He's taking monster swings of huge chunks out of it. He's using this adze to just really hollow it out. And then the final product is this elegant, finely crafted, multiple faceted cooking spoon. I mean, just really cool. You see these other two guys seemingly bashing out a huge dining set of chairs, monster swings, big strokes, taking off huge shavings, and then the end product is an elegant little sitting chair. I mean, it's really cool watching how these guys were working back then. I'll put a link down below. But if you got, 20 minutes, take the time. It's a silent movie, no music, no nothing, but just watch the skill level these guys had and the speed they work. I mean, it's just violent.